Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good, Paul. How are you doing?
Welcome. Tell me a little bit about Ebuzzing and Teads and what you do there.
So, Ebuzzing and Teads, we are the inventors of what we call outstream advertising. Okay. And the basic idea of that is we've pioneered some very interesting ad formats, video ad formats that occur outside of the traditional video stream, meaning proprietary technologies that we're embedding skippable video units directly within the editorial content of top-tier publishers. So we're one of my salespeople like to say the biggest company that you've never heard of. We based in Paris, and then we have 18 different offices in 12 different countries.
So it's Ebuzzing?
Ebuzzing? It depends on who you're talking to. And Teads.
And Teads.
You just have to do this.
Can't forget that part. Yeah. So what kind of content are advertisers putting out there? Are they just taking their pre-rolls and putting out there, or is it different kind of content that they're distributing?
It varies. I mean, it really varies. So since the units are proprietary and we're the ad server behind them, we could do any length of video that our advertiser partners want to use. So I'd say that the lion's share, probably 70–75%, is going to be the 15s and 30s, the repurposed TV spots. And then a number of our partners that are more into long-form branded type content love these units too, because the duration of the video they can put in there is limitless.
Now, you talk about it, as I understand it, as the advertiser only pays for an engaged view.
Right.
How do you define that engaged view?
So the units, our engaged view, we can also call it our viewability standard, is pretty simple. If you have, as an example, if you have a 30-second ad that you want to distribute, our unit would, again, it would expand directly between paragraphs of editorial content. It's also contextually relevant editorial content. Okay. And if it's not actually on the person's screen, over half the unit's not on the person's physical screen, it pauses. And there's a skip button on it. So what we'd consider, quote unquote, an engagement for our in-read unit, which is the one I'm describing, would be a 30-second completed view that somebody has decided not to skip and decided to actually engage and watch the video by their own fruition. So it's what we call intention-based advertising. Somebody says, I'd like to watch this ad. That's the only time the brand is charged.
Right. Is that video on autoplay, or does the user have to click to get it to play?
These units we call view to play.
Right.
So they only start playing when they're completely viewable on the user's screen.
So if you scroll really fast, you miss it.
If you scroll really fast, it wouldn't even expand.
Got it. Now, you talked about 30 seconds being a measure. Is that regardless of how long the video is, or is that if it's a 30-second video?
Yeah, so our benchmark standards are 30 seconds because the majority of the videos that our advertisers use are 30 seconds.
So even if somebody submits a 5-minute video, 30 seconds would be the mark.
That would be our starting point, and then if we have an advertiser that says, we want to have that at a later time, we can definitely do that as well.
Do you find that the advertisers are understanding how to quantify the ROI in this case on this type of distribution?
Right, yeah, I think they are. I think it depends on when we're talking about ROI, right? What is the KPI that they're trying to accomplish? I think that's important.
Is it just views? Is it just impressions of that? Or is there more to it?
So in terms of
calculating the ROI and the KPIs they want to measure.
So when we look at traditionally how brands will look at video distribution campaigns, the brand might come to us and say, listen, we understand that our scale is relatively limited in the pre-roll space. It's still huge, but you can only reach about 60% of the US population with pre-roll on a monthly basis. So we need to reach that other 40%. We're going to work with you because we buy into the concept of these ad units. We understand they're in really top tier environments. We can do completed views. It's an engaged user. We get that, right? And then they say, well, we're gonna try to measure it as we measure pre-roll, right? And how we typically measure pre-roll is through click-through rate. Okay, and we had a campaign recently that we ran for a large electronics company, and I was just talking to the person that runs the account yesterday because the campaign just wrapped up, and she said, we ran 2 campaigns. You guys had a 4% and a 6% click-through rate. She's like, it's really high. She's like, can you explain why that is? And when we're talking about ROI and performance, I said it's very simple. I said if somebody, by their own decision, decides to watch your ad, they're probably more liable to click it.
So you're calculating click-through rate on the viewed ads.
On the viewed ads,
right?
Exactly.
Not the ones that were also passed over and not
right. Well, we can track that as well. But typically, what our partners on the advertiser side will want is they'll say, okay, we have our engaged consumer. How many of them then are clicking through? But we can do it on the general as well if we want to.
Right. Yeah. What would you like to see different about the content that's being distributed through your network and through Ebuzzing and Teads?
Well, I think, you know, and Paul, you probably know coming from the branded content side, and previous to Ebuzzing, I was in branded content. The better the content that's distributed, the better the performance is. I think that, you know, we've worked to create ad formats and a sounding board for brands that no matter what their content is, right? It could be extraordinary content from a GoPro or a Red Bull or something like that, right? Or it could be TPG content, you know, if you're talking about toilet paper, right? It could be any of those things, and we're still making sure that the user that's watching the ad cares about the brand, right? That's one of the big tenets of Ebuzzing and Teads. But of course, the better the content is that comes through before it's actually distributed, and this is, you know, for everybody, I wouldn't even say only to Ebuzzing and Teads, the better it is, the better the performance will be.
Now, do we have to use your player? And does it look nice? That's the first question.
Right.
And secondly is, can we use our own video? So if we have a video up on YouTube, could I use that instead?
Yeah, so our player, we're a European company, Paul. So very elegant,
It looks
beautiful
nice.
player. The Europeans know what they're doing. So no, actually, our players really. I'm biased, of course, but what our partners have told us is we have one of the best looking players out there. It's very slick, very seamless, and simple and elegant. But yes, if you give me a YouTube link, we can just pull in the YouTube player.
And so those views would then count on my YouTube video?
No. We have some of our units that do, but generally speaking, the players, there's a number of things that you have to do in order to count back to the YouTube player.
Right.
And some of the units that we're talking about right now are not designed to increment back. They're designed to unlock an exceptional amount of top tier video inventory in the same model that people really like with a TrueView, right? Which is that cost per completed view methodology and guaranteeing engagement. That's what these units are really for.
Finally, talking about TrueView, talking about skippable ads, what are we teaching consumers about advertising if we're constantly giving them the option to skip it?
I think it's an improvement on the industry in general, right? There's going to be consumers that skip the ads all the time, right? There's going to be people that just go ahead and skip the ad. And what's nice about that option is that same user that's forced to sit through a 30-second pre-roll is sitting there saying, I hate this brand. I have to watch this video. And of course, I'm overstating. But they're saying, give or take. But they're saying, you know, this isn't a good experience for me, right? I'm being forced to watch this video. And that doesn't mean that they're going to go out and buy that brand's product, right? That means that there's a chance that it actually might have negative connotations. So if somebody wants to skip an ad, that's great. You can skip an ad, and then we think the brand should never pay. That's the basic idea. I don't think necessarily we're training the consumers to skip. I think that it's the evolution of marketing for digital, because you can't do this in other mediums, to just give the user a choice.
So in one way, you're helping the industry achieve their goals, and the other way, you're helping them to improve themselves.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, Jim, thank you for coming
Great.
today.
Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate it.